I talked to Franz de Waal, primatologist, genius primatologist in my estimation. Yeah, and I don't know if there's a Nobel Prize that would be specifically appropriate for Franz de Waal, but if there was a Nobel Prize for the sort of science he's doing, he would deserve it, because he's discovered things that they're unbelievably fundamental. For example, he's discovered that sometimes in chimp troops, the smallest male is the alpha.
Really?
Yeah, that it's not dependent on power. A smaller chimp can be alpha, for example, if he has the support of one of the older females who has strong kin connections within the troop, but also is a sophisticated social actor. And I don't mean manipulator, and I don't mean dominator, because de Waal has established very, very clearly, and this is signally important work, that status and authority in a chimp troop, and that is associated with reproductive success, is much more dependent on the ability to reconcile and the ability to maintain reciprocal positive relationships with multiple individuals, far more dependent on that than on the expression of physical power. So this is crucially important. And de Waal just wrote a new book, I think it's called Differences, where he outlined sex differences in toy preference, behavioral preference, differences between male and female chimps, especially juveniles. So the females, for example, if you give a female chimp a block of wood, a reason of the appropriate size, she will carry it around like an infant. So she makes a block of wood into a doll. If you give her a doll, a teddy bear or something like that, that's definitely instantly an infant, and she will take care of it. And she'll share it with the other chimps that she trusts, and she'll get hyper upset if they do anything to it that you wouldn't do to an infant. Whereas if you give a doll to a male juvenile, or a group of males, you make a face, they tear it apart to see what's inside of it. Yeah, and that's funny, because that's kind of the stereotype for what a young boy might do. So let's take this apart and see what's inside of it. It's like, well, there's a hunting, devouring element of that, but there's also a gadget-like curiosity. And there's good work on chimps showing that, oddly enough, the male juveniles, if you give them cars, or like toy cars or dolls, they'll take the cars, which is pretty damn weird, because it's not like chimps have cars. They have infants, but they don't have cars.
I guess they roll. So it's just more fun.
Well, it probably has something to do with tool use preference, is that they're more gadget oriented, even chimps, because they do use tools to some degree. Or maybe it's just that they're not maternal.
Yeah.
Right.
So it's just the other thing.
It might be that. And I don't think the work on that preference is developed enough to be sure. But we do know that, likewise, in human beings, the biggest difference that we know of between men and women is their interest in people versus things. And so, but I was really struck by the carrying around of the wood block, the infantilization of the wood block. And it made me think, one female default is, you're either an infant, or you're a caregiver, or you're a predator. And I think a lot of that's playing out in the world now.
But where does that come from?
Well, I think it comes from the fundamental ethos that governs mother-infant bonding. I mean, look, one of the issues that women, and female chimps for that matter, struggle with terribly is the lengthy period of dependency that highly intelligent primate infants are characterized by. And so a female chimp will carry her infant 500 miles in the first 3 years. She has to carry the infant. They can cling too, but she has to carry the infant everywhere. It's an unbelievable burden. And so, and it's partly because it's worse even in humans, because human infants are born even less able than chimpanzee infants. And there's a reason for that.
It's like a noodle.
Yeah,
with a heavy head.
They're like a fetus. They're actually fetal in a very real sense. So the human cortex is so large that there's an arms race between the size of the infant's head and the width of the pelvic opening through which birth must take place. And it's a very difficult balance to optimize.